Hi, and welcome to another edition of Right on Rangers Live, coming at you for our first Texas Longhorns football game of the season. It's going to be a good one, y'all. It's going to be a good season. I got a feeling. As y'all know, as college football and the NFL season approaches, we will still be covering our usual Rangers content, but we will be migrating to college football and to the NFL as all those games get started up. Of course, most teams playing their first week of college football, including the Longhorns. Longhorns cruise to a 52-0 victory today over Colorado State. We're going to get into everything here in just a little bit. We're going to talk about some of the key contributors today, go through some of the highlights, some of the big moments in the game. And it got to start with the Texas defense throwing up a shutout. Offensive guys are always going to get the love, but that defense today, ferocious. And we're going to cover all of that good stuff here in just a little bit. But before we get started, here at Right on Rangers, we cover everything sports, but we put a big emphasis on all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, including the Longhorns and especially the Longhorns during football season. Appreciate you joining us for your Texas Rangers content and Texas Longhorns content. A lot of different options out there, but we appreciate you choosing us. Let's go ahead and let's get right into it today. So, first of all, Quinn Ewers, likely Heisman candidate. I think he's got to be up there in the top 3, top 5 at minimum conversation at this point. And Heisman is a little bit of a popularity contest. I think a lot of us know that. It's a lot of who gets lobbied at the beginning of the year, who does the media prop up to start the season. And it's kind of the same way in the NFL with the MVP. Whoever goes into it at the beginning of the year with the, favorite, whatever you want to call it, is likely to have a leg up on everybody else. It just seems to always go that way. Clearly, the stats at some point have to matter, but a lot of it, in my opinion, is who the media props up at the beginning of the season. Quinn Ewers, I think, is one of those guys that a lot of people are talking about. And Quinn today, 20 for 27, 3 touchdowns, 260 yards. Quinn was pulled in the third quarter, late in the game. And I think that Arch Manning getting some time is absolutely a great thing. You got to feel like Quinn probably puts up 4 touchdowns, probably goes for over 300 if he's able to get the full time today. I'm going to be interested to see how they monitor that, to be completely honest. I think that's going to be a big storyline going into the season is how much are they going to let Quinn play, maybe do a little bit of stat padding, if you will, late in games when the Longhorns get up. I'd much rather them focus on winning. I know that the Heisman is an important accolade, a very important award. I'm just kind of curious, how much are they going to be balancing that rest and get Arch Manning time, but also allow Quinn Ewers his time in the sun to pad those stats for the potential Heisman Trophy win. Today, he gets 3 touchdowns, does throw an interception. If you watch the game, I mean, the box score doesn't always tell you everything. Quinn doing a nice job stepping up in the pocket, just happened to get his arm hit by a CSU defender. Ball kind of, goes straight up in the air, and a CSU defender is able to camp right under it. Definitely not an interception that I would put all on Quinn Ewers' pocket kind of breaking down around him. But, I mean, to be fair to the offensive line, Quinn was holding the ball for quite some time. Not your traditional interception is what we're trying to say here. Not your traditional pick. But I will say the Texas Longhorns line, by and large, I thought did an outstanding job in this one. You really did not see the quarterbacks going down hardly at all today. Maybe on a few knockdowns here and there, but nothing special. I thought the line did a great job protecting. And Quinn Ewers, some of the passes that he made, that second, was it the second or third touchdown to Golden? That was literally just right on the money. I mean, you couldn't have dropped it any prettier on an out route to Golden in the end zone. Just totally love to see Quinn Ewers with the pinpoint accuracy from the get-go. Beautiful. And I think that, like I said, Quinn is on a great trajectory to be a Heisman Trophy candidate, to be a finalist this year. I'm just a little bit concerned in that Heisman race. And the Heisman's not everything, y'all. I mean, seriously, there's other things that matter more. Winning, obviously, and getting deep into the playoffs, that would be phenomenal. The expanded playoff this year, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. Would love to see the Longhorns make a deep run into that playoff system. It's going to be different this year, but I think it's going to be really, really exciting. I think that this year is just going to be a wait and see with what they do with Quinn. Again, do they let him do some stat padding? Are they going to be consistently pulling him late in these games with a big lead to give Arch Manning the time? I know we're getting into a little bit of minutia with that situation, with that scenario, but nevertheless, I think as the season winds down and the Heisman Trophy race heats up a little bit, I do wonder if they are going to be letting Quinn ball out a little bit more late in the games, see if he can get those numbers up. We'll see. Beyond the quarterbacks, and I think while we're on the quarterbacks right now, let's talk about Arch Manning. Arch, 5 for 6, 95 yards, had a nifty little touchdown pass, if you will, kind of a little flip, right, as he was making something happen there with his legs. Good to see. I really like that Sark right away went to pass when Arch came into the game. You know, usually when the backup comes in, you do a couple of run plays, you kind of let everybody get their feet wet, you know, especially some of the new guys coming into the ball game, the quarterback included. But in this moment, you actually had Arch just slinging it first couple of different times out there. Really, really liked seeing it. Really, really enjoyed the aggressiveness, the play calling when Arch Manning came into the game. It wasn't 3 straight runs or 2 straight runs, and now we're going to pass on 3rd and long. It was passing right out the gate. Love to see that confidence from Sark in Arch Manning. And I hope Arch is able to get some time throughout the year here and there. I think against these non-conference teams, he will. There's probably not going to be a ton of opportunities for him in the SEC this season. Once the Longhorns get into their SEC play, you never know. And of course, there are a few teams in the SEC that are subpar. SEC, I think, as a whole, is very, very good. Now, if we look at the Longhorns schedule right now, Michigan next week in Ann Arbor, I was really glad to see the team so locked in and focused, because I think you all know when you've got that big dog on the other side in the next week, it's really, really hard not to take the team in front of you for granted. I think especially in college football, everybody knows you got Ann Arbor next week. You got the Wolverines next week. And it would be easy to not have your best game against Colorado State. And to see them throw up a 0, complete the shutout, the defense looking outstanding, and then a 52-point total on the scoreboard. There was no overlooking Colorado State here. Michigan is going to be a lot of fun. We're going to preview that Michigan matchup at the end of the show, tell you a little bit about how Michigan did this week, give you some predictions for that game, tell you about what Vegas is thinking on the game as well. So Michigan, September 7th, UTSA and University of Louisiana Monroe before we get into SEC play. Then you've got Mississippi State at home, Oklahoma, Red River. You got Georgia at home. You got Vandy on the road. Vandy did get a little win today, I saw, but Vandy on the road, October 26th. Florida at home, Arkansas on the road, and then Kentucky at home before you would play that team from College Station, Texas A&M at Kyle Field, November 30th. So maybe some games mixed in there, particularly the non-conferences where you're going to see Arch get a little bit more playing time. But nevertheless, I do feel like at this point, SEC, once that gets cooking, you're going to see Quinn Ewers pretty much exclusively. But I was glad to see Arch come in and be successful today. Home crowd loved it. A lot of fun. Now let's talk about some of the skills players. So the running back situation was kind of the big deal coming into the season. You had a couple of guys suffer injuries, really, really unfortunate. Baxter, some injuries in the camp before the season began. Definitely was going to be a question mark coming in, but you had Gibson, you had Blue, each carrying about the same amount. I think Gibson had 10, Blue with 11. Gibson 10 for 67 today with the touchdown. Blue, 11 for 57, each averaging over 5 yards a carry. I absolutely love to see those guys running hard. They had a couple of bruising runs apiece, I felt like. Now, when they face some stiffer competition in the SEC, we're going to see what they're made of, no doubt. And this is a different level. You're playing Colorado State, then you get into SEC play, and you got those teams with them big dogs on that line, on that defensive line. We're going to see what this offensive line is made of once we start going through the SEC gauntlet. It can be a little bit deceiving. You can get a little bit, I don't want to say a false hope, because I think this O-line and the run game is actually going to be really good throughout the season. But I will say you got to take some of these out of conferences with a grain of salt. I definitely loved what I saw today, but I think a lot of teams are going to look better against Colorado State versus playing some of those dogs in the SEC. So I will say good stuff today from the running backs and from the O-line. With that being said, I think we have to see how things play out in the SEC before we make a final call on what we think of the run game and of the O-line. Now, we're looking at skills players right now, kind of going through some of the individual stats. We'll take a look at the team stats too. Isaiah Bond actually had a run today, 25 yards. Nice little nifty play for him. And I feel like with a guy like Bond, you've just got to get the ball in his hands as much as you can. Bond, of course, 5 receptions for 61 yards and a touchdown. Averaged 12 yards per reception. Had a nice 23-yarder to go along with this 25-yard rush. I just feel like Bond, just the speed, the big body, got to get that guy involved as much as possible. And it did look like they were trying to get it to him through the play calling. So good things to see. Of course, Isaiah Bond transferring from Alabama in the wake of the Nick Saban retirement decision. Great pickup for the Horns, especially with Worthy. You had Mitchell, of course, as well, going to the NFL last year. So really, really glad that the Longhorns were able to pick up Bond in the transfer portal, and he makes an immediate impact today. Wingo, 4 receptions, 70 yards. You had Cook, 3 receptions, 56. We had, double-digit guys catching passes today? Hey, great to see. Great to see them spreading the love around a little bit at the quarterback position. But we had, looks like, 11 total guys catching passes today. Incredible. Gunnar Helm had a nice little reception early in the game from Quinn Ewers. A nice little 37-yard gain there. Golden had a nice 38-yard gain. Cook had a 40-yarder. So they were throwing the deep ball today. A lot of that, too. Some of those were yards after the catch. But love to see the passing game on point today from both Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning. 5 for 6 today, 15.8 yards per reception. So really clicking on all cylinders, I felt like. Passing game, running game. Great tune-up before we go to Ann Arbor. 355 yards through the air, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. Like I said, the interception was a little bit fluky in my opinion. And then on the ground today, we had 190 total yards, so almost a 200-yard rush game on the ground, averaging 4.6 yards per carry, 3 rushing touchdowns today. Isaiah Bond with the long of 25, although Gibson and Blue each had runs of 22 and 17 for their longs on the day, respectively. Let me go ahead and check out some comments here. Appreciate y'all tuning in. Tristan, if you're still hanging out, thank you for joining. Yeah, it was a great day to be a Longhorns fan today. Hey, I mean, I feel like Longhorns Nation, we've had some openers that have been interesting over the past 10 years, 15 years. We've had some very interesting home openers, have we not? So I don't take for granted the fact that today was basically a domination. We have had some very interesting openers, both on the road and at home. I'm very, very happy personally to not see any kind of tight game today. I will gladly take a 52-0 victory, because Lord knows over the past decade, we have had some close ones in the opener against bad teams. So I will more than happily take this blowout game. Was a little bit boring at times if you're not a Longhorns fan, just being real. Personally, I love seeing the team come out, even the guys the second unit coming out, doing well. Colorado State, obviously not a juggernaut, but as we said, probably about 5-10 minutes ago, would have been easy for the Horns, I think, to overlook Colorado State with the big matchup against the Wolverines next week in Michigan. You didn't see that at all. The coaches had this team ready to go, and I think that is huge. It shows you the drive, shows you the commitment, shows you where this team's head is at coming into this year. Of course, a disappointing loss against the Washington Huskies in the playoff last year, a game that the Longhorns nearly came back from the dead to win. You got to imagine that is fresh in the minds of Steve Sarkisian, Quinn Ewers, and a lot of the Longhorns players that are returning this year. Glad to see them come out with that fire, no doubt. I'll keep checking comments throughout. So if you got something from the game today, you got a question, you got something you want to throw my way this season, I'd be more than happy to answer it. Yeah, I definitely will get to comments, all of them, before all is said and done. May have to skip over some of the ones that don't add much to our discussion here, but anything Longhorns related, anything Texas sports, we'll talk it here. Of course, Texas Rangers just started their game. I know some of y'all may be Rangers fans, some of y'all may not be. We're big Rangers fans here at Right On Rangers. If the title of the channel didn't give it away, I don't know what's going to. We'll be on later tonight to talk Texas Rangers. If I got any of my Texas Rangers peeps hanging out to talk Longhorns, we'll be back after the Rangers game. Not that the Rangers are going anywhere right now this season, but we do love all of our Texas sports teams. The Rangers, Longhorns, those Cowboys, and, of course, the Dallas Mavericks. We grew up here in the DFW area, so a lot of Metroplex teams we are big fans of. A lot of Texas Longhorns love, though, and we will be here after every game on Saturdays, ready to bring you some good Texas Longhorns analysis. So, again, you got anything you want to add into the discussion, you got any questions you want to drop into the chat, throw them my way. Would be happy to get to them eventually. Let's keep going here. Let's talk team stats here. So on the day, team stats, Longhorns defense gives up less than 200 yards. Right? The Colorado State quarterback Fowler, I believe, had 59 yards on the day, was picked off once. We did give up over 100 yards on the ground. Definitely looked like that was the play for Colorado State. And late in the game, to be completely fair to the defense, Colorado State was just trying to get out of town. Right? They were not slinging it all over the field at the end of the game. Once the Longhorns were up 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns, it was pretty much exclusively a ground game just to wind clock and just to get Colorado State back on home. So, yes, the team does give up over 100 yards on the ground to Colorado State. You'd love to see double digits, not triple digits there. But with that being said, I think we have to consider the context. Colorado State at the end of that game is just trying to wind the clock. So overall, 192 yards, forced 2 turnovers. The Longhorns defense did. You had an interception that was thrown, 2 interceptions total actually thrown. You had no fumbles lost on the other end. Ewers did throw that fluky interception. So 3 turnovers total in the game. Actually, a pretty even game in terms of time of possession. Longhorns did win the time of possession battle, about 31 minutes to 29 minutes for Colorado State. Of course, the game was so lopsided at one point. At a certain point in the game, both teams just trying to get out of town, get out of this one without any injuries. Second unit guys coming in, but good to see the Longhorns getting 2 turnovers on defense today and shutting down the passing game. Colorado State definitely wanted to run the football today. And I think if you're going up against a juggernaut like Texas, that has got to be the game plan. I don't know. I can only try and tell you what I would do on the other side, but you're just trying to keep that Texas juggernaut offense off the field. So running the ball, short passes, trying to get things rolling that way. And it just didn't work out. Longhorns defense was outstanding on third down, 5 for 14 conversions, the conversion rate for the Colorado State Rams. So Longhorns 9 out of 14 times are able to stop CSU on fourth down. CSU was also 0 for 2 on fourth down as well. Longhorns offense on the other side, 2 for 3 on fourth down. You just absolutely love to see it. Longhorns defense, I think, is going to be a big part of the team's success this year. Of course, the offense is going to be getting a lot of the love. No doubt they will. Longhorns offense is going to be getting a ton of attention. Quinn Ewers, Heisman candidate, Isaiah Bond, a big-time receiver. And, of course, I think that the passing attack in general is a huge strength for this team. I think the running backs may end up surprising. Longhorns did suffer a couple of key injuries to some of their probable starting running backs coming into the season, but I think that they have enough depth that they're going to be okay running the football this year too. And I think Sark's going to do a nice job keeping things balanced, keeping the defense on its toes, allowing for some of those running backs that weren't expected to make a lot of contributions this year to have a little bit of an easier time getting their feet wet, especially once SEC football rolls around. So let's wrap up the box score, the stats, and then we'll start previewing that game up north in Michigan next week. One of the biggest, probably the biggest game of the week. Let's talk about penalties. Only 6 penalties in the entire game today. I just got to say, I love when we get to witness a pretty clean game of football. Look, sometimes y'all know how it goes with some of these college refs. We see double-digit penalties. We see 20-plus penalties between each team. It's freaking ridiculous. But we only saw 6 penalties, 3 on each team today. I think you got to be happy with that. It is such a more fast and enjoyable game when you don't have the refs throwing penalties on every single ticky-tack little play. For me, just so y'all know where I'm at with penalties and with the refs and flags, I'm a big fan of, if it really didn't affect the play and really wasn't that egregious, just let the boys play out there. It just makes for a much better viewing experience for the people at home and there in the stands. Penalties just slow down the game, and a lot of ticky-tack penalties called out there in the game of college football. I would much rather you let them play if it didn't directly impact the game itself. You got to call the egregious stuff, but I'm just glad to see both teams play a clean game of football and the refs not over-insert themselves into the game today. So 3 penalties for 25 yards each, identical for both CSU and for the Longhorns. So in my opinion, a very fair game called by the refs today. You love to see that coming out the gate, and you love to see the Longhorns being disciplined. Let me check out the TikTok comments. I don't mean to leave y'all hanging. By the way, anybody who's new to the channel, I got my Mac set up here, and I've got Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, X on the Mac here, and I've got TikTok on my phone. So all y'all on TikTok, I know it looks like I'm talking to nobody, but I promise I got you. I promise I got you. Do I think Texas A&M wins? No, I don't think Texas A&M wins. I'm never going to think Texas A&M wins. In fact, this is a good little plug for me. So I'm doing a challenge, and y'all know from all my Rangers, Texas Rangers content, I've been doing something similar. I'm actually betting 1 cent for every follower that I have against Texas A&M this season. So I am betting 1 cent for every follower on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish to cover the spread tonight against the Texas A&M Aggies. And I will be doing that every single game this season that A&M plays. So if you want to see that bet get a little higher, you want to see the ante get upped, you want to see the stakes get raised, tell some people about Right On Rangers. Let's get this challenge really cooking. So again, betting 1 cent for every follower on whoever is playing the Texas A&M Aggies. So tonight we will be big Notre Dame Fighting Irish fans. Irish are 3-point dogs at Kyle Field. I'd love nothing more than to see A&M lose their first game of the season in front of the home fans. Is there anything more enjoyable? Sean, what's up, my guy? Go Dogs, indeed. Dogs taking care of business against Clemson today. Kind of a boring game in the first half. One of my really good buddies, actually, kind of a Georgia fan. I don't know if he's all out, I would say, but definitely enjoys rooting for Georgia. He's from Texas, but Georgia, his team, also likes TCU a little bit. Weird combination, but whatever, nevertheless. And he did call it at halftime. I was like, dude, what is up with this Georgia offense? Like, seriously, they can't put up more than what was it at halftime? Like a little over 10 points or something. It was not anything special at the half. And he was like, bro, they're a second half team. You're about to see them flip a switch. He was right. Georgia, that second half, that was a domination. Dabo has got to figure out that the transfer portal is actually a thing. And if you use it, you might start winning some more of these big games. Look, the Longhorns got it figured out. The transfer portal exists and it helps you win. I think that there's some other teams that have that figured out as well in the SEC. But Clemson, not an SEC team, but did not and have not started any transfers since the portal has been in existence. Are you kidding me? Clemson has not started a single transfer since the portal came into existence. And we wonder why they lose big games and why they really haven't been a juggernaut since Trevor Lawrence. You got to use the transfer portal in today's day and age. Yeah, no, not Tennessee. Let me go ahead and make sure everybody understands here. We're Longhorns all the way right now. Don't get the T twisted. Don't get this T twisted right now. There's only one UT, and that UT is the University of Texas. I know that Tennessee gets to claim it because whatever, they've been in the SEC, been around for longer, something like that. I don't know. But no, let's not get it twisted. When Texas and Tennessee play, you're going to see what happens. You're going to see that there's only one UT, and it's the one that we're sporting right here on the chest. So no worries. We're going to get that settled later on this season. Texas 915 on TikTok. What's up, man? Thanks for tuning in today. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. We're hanging out, talking Texas Longhorns 52-0 beatdown of the Colorado State Rams. Man, I was kind of thinking, and I know that Colorado, I'm talking about the Buffaloes, are overhyped, but I saw that Colorado and Colorado State are kind of matching up. And of course, I think that game's in a few weeks. And there's some fun storylines there. But for some reason, I just had it in my mind coming into this game that Colorado State was going to come in, play a little bit of a better ball game against us. I didn't think by any means that they were going to come into Austin and win today. Didn't know if the Longhorns were going to cover the spread. I thought that was a little bit up in the air, but Longhorns covered the spread and then some today. Minus 34.5 was the line. 62.5 was the over-under, so the under cashes in that one. Minus 34.5, though. Whenever you see 5 touchdowns as the spread for a game, I usually tend to stay away. I'm not going to be backing Texas a whole lot when it's minus 35, essentially. But look, 52-0, it was not really even a sweat today if you bet Texas on this one. 52-0 ball game. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing to see. I'm going to keep on with TikTok here. Somebody's got a fantasy question. Breece Hall or CD? Shoot. Depends on the league, right? PPR. What kind of league are we talking? I'll come back and I'll check that out. NFL Rips, if you want to put that in the chat, I'll try and get back to it. PPR league, I got to think CD. I'm going CD there because Dak, who else does he have? We're going to be talking Cowboys next week as the Cowboy season gets started up. Another one of the teams will go live after every Cowboys game, Longhorns game, and Texas Rangers game. So all y'all hanging out talking football, you're about to see me a little bit later on tonight. We're going to be talking Texas Rangers baseball. We cover all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, baseball, football, college football, basketball. So you'll see me a little bit later on. But with Dak and the limited options he has, so he's got Fergie, right? He's got Ferguson. He's got Lamb, Cooks. I don't know. I think CD is going to be getting a pretty high volume. And then you've got an old Zeke Elliott, Dalvin Cook, who doesn't really know a lot of the plays yet. I think it is going to be a heavy volume for CD this year. I would be taking CD Lamb, NFL Rips. So thanks for the comment. Appreciate you tuning in today. Let's put a bow on this Longhorns game. I know when it's 52-0, like how much minutia do you really want to get into? But let's start and go through the matchup for next week, which is going to be the Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor. Michigan's playing Fresno State. They're currently up 7-0 in the first quarter of that game. Believe the head coach, I don't know if I'm right on this one. Look, I got enough problems just keeping up with all my Texas teams that I love. Is the University of Michigan head coach suspended for the first several games? Is that what I understand? Is that right? Somebody help me out with that in the chat. I'll see if he is suspended or not. I know that they had some different sanctions levied on them from the Harbaugh days, but I'm going to see if I can figure this out. I don't know. Maybe not, but it's hard to do it live, y'all. So forgive me for this one. If y'all know, let me know. But Michigan, no, this is last year. He was suspended for the season opener. Michigan's head coach Moore could face suspension, show cause penalty. Shoot, I don't know. I'm not finding it, y'all. I knew that there was like a possibility of suspension, but I didn't get any clarification on that just in my quick Google search. So if y'all got that on lock, please put it in the chat. Let me know whatever happened with the Michigan head coach getting suspended. I was pretty sure that there was something to that, but I don't know. We'll see. I'll see if I can keep figuring it out along the way. But Michigan right now up 7-0 on Fresno State. You'd assume they're probably going to get the victory there. I don't think that Fresno is going to present any kind of challenge for them. So we know that Michigan is returning some players. We know they love to run the football. We know the defense is legit. I think it's going to be a really fun game. I'm curious to see how much Sark decides to test that defense. I got to think that the play is to get the ball in the air. I think against that Michigan defensive line, we could find a little bit to be tough sledding on the ground game. I think Sark is the ultimate mastermind, the ultimate play caller, and figuring out the defense's weaknesses and exploiting them. I do think you're going to see a bit of a balanced attack, but I do think that Texas is going to try and spread out that Michigan secondary a little bit. I think Michigan would love us to just battle this one out in the trenches, but I think you're going to see Sark and the Horns attack through the air. I think with Quinn Ewers being at the level and at the stage he's at in his career, you have got to allow your best player to eat. And I think you've got to let Quinn go up against those DBs in that Michigan secondary, mano-a-mano, and see what he's got. I think this is a big test for Quinn. He's done it before on the road last year in Alabama. You saw the dude ball out really back-to-back years against Bama. Quinn was phenomenal. So I'm expecting them to let Quinn be the guy that wins this game for the Horns. And I think that they'll mix in, obviously, the run game as well to keep that defense on its toes. But if I'm Sark, I'm letting Quinn eat. I'm allowing Isaiah Bond to get out there, drawing up some things for him to get free in that secondary, just getting the ball in his hands. I think it is going to be a really, really fun matchup. I'm going to see if I can get any kind of preview on that game, see if there's any kind of line out on the game. Looks like it's Texas -4 right now, according to the Vegas odds makers. Over-under is set at 47.5. So Texas, at least right now, favorite in that game. I'm not going to be shocked if you see that line go towards Michigan as the game gets a little bit closer. I can imagine there's going to be a lot of people wanting to get on that Michigan underdog value, underdog money. I got to think. I mean, look, just being objective, if I didn't love the Texas Longhorns as much as I do, I 100% would be looking at that Michigan +4 at home and be raising my eyebrow, licking my chops a little bit. That said, Texas on the road with Quinn Ewers has been pretty good. I mean, look at the Alabama game last year. I think Texas on the road is not a team to be slept on. So I think the public is going to be taking Michigan in this one, especially the casual college football fans. I think they're going to be thinking about the Texas of old. Let's be real, Texas fans. We've choked some big games over the last 5 years. I feel like, though, Quinn Ewers is going to be poised out there in Ann Arbor. I really don't think that we are going to get beat because, the team as a whole soiled the bed. If we get beat, it's going to be because Michigan was better and had a better game plan. I don't think we're going to see a meltdown as the reason why we potentially lose a game in Ann Arbor. I do think you're going to see this team very well prepared. We'll see if Michigan can go toe-to-toe with us. Right now, the Longhorns 4-point favorites. We shall see what next week brings, but I am very, very excited for that one. That game is going to be an 11 a.m. Texas time start. We will be, looks like, 9 a.m. out here in Vegas. Those of y'all that don't know, I know I've got a few probably new people to the channel. We live out here in Las Vegas, and it's a lot of fun, but we got early football out here. 9 a.m. is when all those 11 o'clock games start out here for us. It's kind of fun, actually, because you literally have football from the time you wake up on Saturday until you go to bed at like 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. My wife absolutely hates it, but it is a lot of fun for football fans around the nation getting to watch all these games, sun up to sundown, especially out on the West Coast. Can't beat it. Can't beat it. October is an awesome time to be a sports fan. September as well. You got baseball heating up with the postseason. Wish my Rangers were a little bit more in the race, but you've got obviously baseball in full swing. You got college, NFL. You've got basketball, hockey starting up. This time of year is awesome, and we love it. And we will be back at you next week to talk about the Longhorns game versus the Wolverines out in Ann Arbor. So for all of y'all joining in late, here at Right on Rangers, we cover everything sports, but we put a big emphasis on all the teams we love from the great state of Texas, including the Longhorns, and especially the Longhorns during football season. So we'll be bringing you post-game analysis of every Texas Longhorns game, taking your comments, your questions, giving you our big takeaways from each game, usually right after the game is over or within 30 minutes. Depending on the day, it may be a little bit delayed. Just depends on my work schedule and things that I might have going on a given weekend, but always going to try and go live as close to the game conclusion as possible because that's when we all want to talk about it anyways, and especially after big wins or disappointing losses. Hopefully we don't have too many of those this season. We got to let it out. I hope that not too many of these lives are going to end up being Longhorns therapy sessions, but we know how it goes. It's tough going undefeated in the world of college football, but we hope you'll come back and hang out again next week, right around probably 2-3 p.m. Texas time, hopefully after a Texas Longhorns win against the Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor. Appreciate all of y'all tuning in today. If you know somebody that loves the Texas Longhorns, loves college football, please send them my way. We're pretty cool about chatting about just about anything too. So you want to talk something college football, non-Longhorns, throw it in. You want to talk something else, Texas sports, I'm pretty flexible. Everybody go ahead, watch that A&M Notre Dame game, cheer for the Fighting Irish. We're betting 1 cent for every follower against every A&M opponent this season. So join me in rooting against the Aggies, the little brothers from College Station. And we'll be back next week to talk more Longhorns football with you. We may have some reels out during the week to go through and talk about some of the Longhorns matchups and some of the different takeaways and things that I'm going to be looking forward to about the game this Saturday. But Hope y'all have a great rest of your Saturday afternoon. Enjoy some more college football. If I do not see you on one of my other lives talking about the Rangers or the Cowboys at some point, hope to see you back next week for Saturday's live, going through Longhorns post-game coverage. And as I always say to end every show, God bless and hook 'em.